Well, as you can see behind me is the US Constitution, the actual one, because I went out there in law school and we're there in DC and took a picture of it. Today is all about the Constitution. Sovereign citizens, well, first of all, I had a guy today tell me he doesn't like that term because it's an oxymoron, that it's an inherent contradiction. You can't be a sovereign, you can't be a citizen. I agree with that. I know that. I think I figured that out. The problem is that somebody earlier in your group came up with that term, and now you're stuck with it. But you also have, and I'm saying this after 2 years of listening to it, more than 20,000 comments, more than 2 million views. If your attempt here is to become sovereign and not to be subject to the rules of the United States, assuming that's your goal, I want to help reflect your mirror back on you and help you accomplish those goals. So let's take a look. The forms have to be filled out, which means you have to first recognize the United States government has the power for you to sign the forms, for you to no longer be totally subject to the United States laws. Even then, you're still subject to the United States laws. If it's to get out of paying taxes, the government never let you get out of that. Child support orders, criminal punishment, the government will still have its hands in your pocket, but you will lose your ability to be a citizen. However, there is this thing that if you remain in the United States and intend to live there and not as an alien, then they will probably treat all of this as a sham anyway. And here's what's going to happen. If you claim that you are not a US citizen and you fill out these forms, and then you don't have another country to go to, you could be deemed a stateless person. And so therefore, you can't be sent to another country because you don't have any rights to move there. You won't have a passport, you won't have anything to use because you just renounced your US citizenship. You would be considered an illegal alien in the United States, which means you could be arrested and put in jail because you have nowhere to go. That's why they euphemistically recommend that you think this through, because you could become a person that can't go anywhere and can't leave anywhere and be arrested and incarcerated, and an INS detention center will not know what to do with you. People who think that they are expatriating themselves, they will still be subject to income taxes. And then it says if the person's principal purpose of requesting a certificate of loss of nationality was to avoid being taxed, the person may be subject to continued US. The word may, of course, means we'll have to see how that one goes. Then we have the different ways you could lose your nationality. You could, for example, make an affirmation or other formal declaration of allegiance to a foreign state or political subdivision, okay? Entering or serving the armed forces of a foreign state, that will do it. Acts of treason, yep. There's a lot of forms here, so I just thought I would just throw one of them at you. This is a person who's going to the embassy. There's more forms in this, and then you put your name. So I wanted to use the parse syntax grammar that was made infamous by David Miller. And if they ask you to put your name down as it appears on any unexpired government ID, well, we know that you typically do not have that, and you can just simply say you do not consent. Of course, you must understand that if you say that, then you haven't completed the forms and you cannot go through with the process. So I just put where I think you might have been born. You might have been down. There was a city called Myopic and a county called Obtuse somewhere in California. That doesn't surprise me. Or your current address is Expat Way. I thought the word "pat" was a good choice. And Obstinate, Kentucky, good town, by the way, nice people. Have a lot of relatives in Kentucky. Then you have to check boxes, and these are the potential acts that you're supposed to only check one. I showed you the different ways, treason, everything. I said, why not create a new one, like defending Joe Biden? I would think that would be an act of treason, but so you would have to put under other. I don't think that will work. And then the dates that these supposedly things happened, And then if you wanted to really further bolster your application, I always thought UCC 1-308 and Black's Law could help finish the picture. I'm not trying to make light of this situation. If you actually go through the interviews and sign the forms, you can legally say that you are no longer a United States citizen. And if you have nowhere to go and you can't remain in the US, you have to go somewhere. So you would be a person who is a nomad. Now, you would still be subject to criminal law. You'd still be subject to taxation. You would still be subject to any laws that you break. So I'm not sure what the end game here is for you to declare yourself sovereign, because if you truly wanted to be sovereign, this means you have to cooperate with the sovereign in order to be released from it, but you would still have its hold on you. And then also you wouldn't be able to get a passport, you wouldn't be able to travel, you wouldn't have ID. As they said, this would have serious implications upon you. I personally think that what you're saying, if your argument is that the United States is a corrupt country and there's a lot of corruption in our system, you're right about that. If your argument is that you believe in the Constitution, absolutely. If you believe in the First Amendment and guns and all that stuff like I do, sure, that's great. You can't just separate yourself from it. You got to help fix the problem. This to me would not solve your problems. I wouldn't tell you to do any of this stuff. I'm not telling you to do anything. But what I am saying is that I have never heard of a single one of you going through with the process and filling out these documents. So in the comments below, tell me what it is that you're really trying to accomplish by saying you're sovereign. Sovereign from whom? Just like you think that I'm not a real lawyer and I belong to the British Accredited Registry, which is ridiculous, or that I'm a member of a secret society. You guys hand me the Magna Carta as justification for what your thinking is, or the common law, maritime law, which, by the way, maritime law deals with the ocean. You're horribly uninformed. And I think you're being played by people who make a lot of money to keep you uninformed. Your disgust with the government and its corruption, no one's arguing that, but we don't form splinter groups that now break away and say that they get all the benefits of our country, but without the burdens. Let me know what you think.
Fuck you!
Sign.
Do you really wanna?
Sign.
Do you wanna? Well, then that's fine with me. Come on, let's do it, asshole. Let's do it. What? I wanna do it. I wanna do it. What do you mean? You see that he's out of his mind? He's crazy.
What's that?
There's a lot of forms here.
You keep it